Hey everybody, welcome back again to Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, where the proof is in the singing. I'm continuing my series on taking these absolutely incredible isolated vocal tracks. I'm doing a vocal analysis, a singing tutorial. I'm talking about the recording process, a little bit about the band, some of the orchestration, etc. And next up is Freddie Mercury again. I'm finishing up my Queen-a-thon, and we are the champions. Of course, we know the band is Queen. And what I want to do is I kind of want to linger on the parts a little bit longer as we're going through. And I know we've done quite a bit of that. But before we get started, if you wouldn't mind, please like and subscribe to my channel. That'd be really cool. Don't forget to ring the bell because it'll help me keep new cool videos coming your way. And I have a singing course, and the course is called How to Sing Better Than Anyone Else. You can find it right here at KenTamplinVocalAcademy.com, where I also have a singing forum with now 25,000 members where we're all talking about how to get great at singing. So now with that said, I want to talk about the lingering thing. Now I know I've done quite a bit of this before, but I think it's really interesting because I'm hearing so many things I've never noticed before about a lot of these tracks, and I just want to point them out to you guys. So I'm just going to bip right in and we're going to rock and roll on this, and let's do it. Here we go.
I've paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime.
Now, I have to be really blunt, honest, and not just, ingratiate Freddie because he's awesome and he's withstood the test of time. But I also really love talking about the humanity and putting humanity on a lot of these guys, because I know we deify them and I know they're all superstars and stuff, and that is true, and it's amazing. But when I listen to Mark Martel, for example, who also just does Freddie, who's good if not better than Freddie, check him out if you haven't already. Mark does this. I wish he was here because he would be just a great asset to discussing this stuff. But is that the minute you notice, what did you guys notice about that? Well, the first thing I noticed was he sounds really stuffy. Now, I've noticed that about his other stuff, and I've said this before, and this isn't a pick on Freddie session. This is also just kind of interesting for me to go, man, as a vocal coach, I know how hard it is, and for you singers out there, how hard it is to sing with congestion, to sing with a stuffy nose, and to have something as epic as this is recorded and have that be kind of his shtick. He's got kind of a stuffy nose and his vibrato's kind of funny and stuff. I want to really focus on the good and the bad so we can really pick it apart and take an honest look at it. So let's do it again. Let's check this out. Listen to how clogged up he sounds, but he's killing it. His pitch is great. And then listen to his, kind of, I don't want to say inconsistent, but not really stable vibrato. Okay, listen real close. It's very interesting.
I've paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime.
Now, if I were to do this and to try to teach you guys how to do this, I'd say, I've paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime and bad mistakes, right? I would kind of walk you through this and have you be kind of bright on the sound, etc. But actually, the way he has done it is I'd really have to make it sound like this. I've paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime. Now I'm really accentuating the nasality of this, but it's very, very interesting. I'm going to listen to it one more time and we'll continue. I'm not going to beat this up that much, but I want you to notice it, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about his vibrato. But listen to how congested he is. I know he did a lot of drugs, and I know some blow involved, and probably, alcohol does that to you too. It really, clogs you up and stuff. But it's just fascinating. This song could be so absolutely epic, and it's epic, and his singing is epic, and the writing is epic, and the harmonies are epic, and the orchestration is epic. All that is crazy, but it's also interesting to see that, he had to work through a lot of stuff, a lot of isms and vocal impairments or whatever, maybe self-induced or not, but this is what he did. Check it out.
I've paid my dues.
You hear that?
Time after time.
Time after time.
I've done my sentence, but committed no crime.
Now, you hear that wiggly crime, crime. right? He's going back and forth because, let's be honest, guys, he really did not have that great of command of his vibrato. It was amazing because it was really emotional and extremely passionate. So I'm convinced that Freddie cared far more about the theatrics and the emotion and the passion and everything else that goes into it than being so concerned with that technical aspect of his voice. But let's also be clear on this too. He had an absolutely phenomenal range, so he had to be technical to the extent that he was able to get that range even with these different kind of anomalies in the voice. Okay, let's continue. Here we go.
And bad mistakes, I've made a few. I've had my share of sand kicked in my face, but I've come through. And I need to go on.
Cool. Now, on this section, he's really, I've paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence. So he's real airy on it. So try to do this with me. Add a little air to the sound. I've paid my dues, right? And maybe my vibrato is different because I have a wider vibrato. His is very, we say gelto or caprino, which is like a goat swiggle, kind of a sound, right? And time after time, I've done my sentence and committed no crime. So he's adding all this, and bad mistakes, right? I made a few, and he's got the yo, right? So he's got diamonds are a girl's best friend, this kind of very melodramatic sort of thing. And then when he kicks into gear on this section, you can hear he has theatrically really put the pedal to the metal and gone in to show you his frustration. Check it out.
I've had my share of sand kicked in my face, but I've come through. And I need to go on.
Now immediately, the song's called We Are the Champions. So he's talking about the struggles that he's had, and he's going to talk about a little bit more, and then he's talking about how he's just not going to take no for an answer. He's just going to plow right on through this no matter what anybody says or whatever. And then he's championing others to come along. That's not just me. I'll hold the torch. I'll carry the banner, but you guys are going to come alongside me, and we are the champions. Okay. So listen to this one more time about the aggression and how he theatrically, again, brings along the storyline and makes you believe it because of the way he's singing it. And then when I kick the band in, the band really accentuates all this stuff. Check it out.
I've had my share of sand kicked in my face, but I've come through.
Even Chef said, "Kick in my face, but I come through." You hear me like the drama of the breath.
I've had my share of sand kicked in my face, but I've come through. And I need to go on. We are the champions, my friends. And we'll keep on fighting till the end.
Okay, now, on this, if you notice also, it's really interesting because he breaks away from this, I gotta fight, I gotta do it, we will rock you, whatever it is. And then, we are the champions, my friends, right? And then he's kind of got this lullaby-ishy kind of thing where it's so catchy that you kind of just want to sing along with it, even if you don't even know what you're being brought into being championed to. You're like, yes, we're all great, and we're all going to do. So it's such a, I know this was picked like for sporting events, and it was a big, huge song for sporting events, but can't you see why? It's like, everybody, especially from a patriotic standpoint, everybody's home country, they want to think of their home country as the champion. Well, everyone can't be the champion. There's got to be a winner, right? To some degree. But in this way, he's actually giving the whole world the opportunity to look at their life and excel at whatever they're good at, and then they're champions in their own right. And I think that's just genius. Like, as I think about it, there are few songs that can do stuff like that, like We Will Rock You and stuff, where I can see why they picked this song for big sporting events, right? How cool is that? And I don't think it was necessarily totally done with that intent, though I think there was some of that involved in it, but I think that's awesome. Let's continue. Here we go.
We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions.
Okay, now I want to back this up because I want to talk about the harmonies. I have done, by the way, I have 40 plus records out. 40. I think it's more than the Rolling Stones. And I have made it a life's passion to do a lot of this kind of orchestration with my vocals. So those of you that know me and know my records, look it up. But I have a lot of Queen-esque vocals and a lot of Brian May kind of guitar playing. I just grew up on this. I love it. The orchestration is just that. It's literally like an orchestrator, like a composer, a film composer, and a conductor, conducting these vocal parts. I want you to hear the intricacy of the melodies and harmonies and the way they, go in and out of each other. Check this out.
We are the champions. We are the champions.
Here there's like tetrachords and sevenths and ninths, and they're all just kind of weaving in and out of each other in the most amazing way. Try to pick off this stuff. It's pretty tough to try to reduplicate this stuff. I've done it a lot, so I know how to do it. But they're polychords, and what they're doing is they're putting a chord on top of another chord, so it sounds kind of phased out. And then the chord itself, how they're singing this is there will be like, somebody orchestrated a chord. Freddie probably did it on piano or something, and he actually played the notes on the piano. Everybody sang the notes as a chord, not following a melody like this, like most people do when they want to harmonize against something. He's singing the chord first, and then he's doing these harmonies on top of that, so polyphonically, or there's a polyphony of these chords, or not the right word. There's they're literally chords on top of chords, right? So anyway, as you listen to this, I'm going to point some of this out along the way. That's some pretty tough harmony stuff there, guys. It's like jazz meets rock meets opera meets, theater, everything all combined into one.
No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions.
Some of it almost even sounds like barbershop quartet on the bottom too, which is really cool. Okay, let's continue. Here we go.
Of the world.
Did you hear that lack of control of vibrato? Of the world! Right? He's going in and out of his vibrato because he just doesn't have command of it, but he doesn't care because it's about the emotion for him, right? Very interesting. Let's continue. Here we go. And by the way, here I am, a vocal coach, and I talk to you guys about the importance of understanding all the technical aspects of the voice and stuff. And then by the way, it's music business. 50% music, 50% business. I think Freddie Davis Jr. said that. It's actually these days, unfortunately, about 90% business, 10% music. Back then, it was 90% music, 10% business. If you guys are following what I'm saying, this is true about art, also singing art, because it's 50% technical and 50% art, right? But the artistic side of this I will say this 1,000 times, as much as I teach the technical aspect, because it gives you more in your toolbox to create better art, you gotta have the art first, okay? You've gotta be able to have your personality and your character and all that stuff and kind of what you want out of what envisioning yourself for the artistic part. So that has to happen first, and then the technical side comes along to increase your palette for the art, or again, increase your toolbox and your ability to create better art. So I wanna be really, really careful about, as we're talking about this, so it's not so technical that we get lost in that. No, it should be art, passion, drive, all these crazy things, that emotion and everything goes in it first, and then the technical aspect gives us the ability to make that even better. All right, I had to say that. Here we go.
I've taken my bows and my curtain calls. You brought me fame and fortune and everything that goes with it. I thank you all.
Now, notice what he does with this ebb and flow. So let's go back to this here at the top. Check this out. Oops.
I've taken my bows.
Now, we come off this anthemic, epic, we are the champions, right? And I've taken my bows. He's like real soft. And my curtain calls. You gave me fame and fortune and everything that goes. And I thank you all, right? But he's going back, I've taken my vows. you kind of feel like, hey, he just did that to me vocally. I could kind of see him doing it. And my curtain calls. You kind of almost see the curtains pulling back. You gave me fame and fortune and everything that goes. And I thank you all. Right. And he's going in and out. So listen to the velocity changes. Even though there's a lot of compressor on the vocals to keep it as even as possible, he's working that microphone to give you the sense of this going in and out. And he's kind of, really bringing intensity back and forth in the singing. Listen close.
I've taken my bows and my curtain calls. You brought me fame and fortune and everything that goes with it. I thank you all.
Right? Did you hear? Went back and forth on that. Pretty interesting. And that creates different kinds of energy in the music. So when I kick the music in, you're going to see how that interpolates or how that plays with the music back and forth, which is very interesting also. Because it's, even though we have the isolated vocal, you're going to see that accentuated as I kick in the track.
But it's been no bed of roses.
You see it? So all of a sudden the intensity, but it's been no bed of roses and no pleasure cruise. He's gonna starting to bring the energy in. Check it out.
But it's been no bed of roses, no pleasure cruise. I consider it a challenge before the whole human race, and I ain't gonna lose. And I need to go champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting.
Now, on this section, I think it was interesting. Fighting, right? In the first one, he's fighting till the end. Right? He does that on the first one. And then he really intensifies it because he's getting more and more aggressive and more passionate about being a champion. So check it out. On this one, he sings this full voice instead of going into head voice or falsetto. Listen.
And we'll keep on fighting till the end. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions.
Now, on this last part, we are the champions. Na, 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 na. I don't know if he really meant to do that. So I'm not going to try to read more in this than is there. But knowing Freddie, he probably did. He wrote that because he sings it differently than the first time. He goes, 'cause we are the champions. Na, 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 na. Of the world, right? So listen to this again with a view towards that, knowing his personality, knowing his, and even the songs like, stick it to the world kind of thing, right? So let's check it out.
Time for losers, 'cause we are the champions.
We are the champions
Of the world. We are the champions, my friends.
Friends. It even goes flat at the end of that. It's kind of interesting. Check it out.
Friends. And we'll keep on fighting till the end. Oh, we are the champions.
By the way, that's a really interesting note. Just, oh, we are. It's a very orchestral approach to singing. The way he comes in on this note, you probably wouldn't know it because you wouldn't know without the track. But check this out.
Oh, we are the champions.
Hear the polychords. We are. You got this stacking of crazy vocals there.
We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions.
And did you notice that quartet? We are the champions. You hear the big lower voices come in to accentuate the end of the phrases, to kind of button in the phrases. Listen.
'Cause we are the champions.
And then here we go, the end of the song.
Of the world.
Awesome. Now, let's go back to the top of this And let's
My due.
okay, let me grab the beginning. I want to add the track to it to now kind of show you about the recording process and how these vocals were accentuated and how they interpolate, which kind of means mingle in together, fit in together each other. How they play off of each other from everything that I just discussed with you about the track or about the singing part itself.
My dues, time after time, I've done my sentence, but committed no crime.
Now, you start out, you can just see like some guy playing a piano on a theater, the spotlight's on him, right? Very, very, very theatrical. And I've paid my dues. Time after time, like this whole thing. And then all of a sudden,
And bad mistakes, I've made a few.
now, what emotion do you get out of this part? If someone's talking about mistakes, usually it's with lament, right? But the music doesn't do that. Now, for you music heads out there that are now more interested in the songwriting part of all this stuff, it's pretty important because I've written a lot of stuff. Again, guys, look me up on imdb.com. Put in Ken Tamplin. You'll see all of the film stuff that I've done. This is orchestration for film. Let me explain. When I go into this part right here,
And bad mistakes, I've made a few.
okay, it's reminiscing, but it's not lamenting. And usually when we talk about mistakes, it should be, da-da-da, I made mistakes, oh, they suck, they cost me. But he's going, what the heck? And bad mistakes, I've made a few. Oh, well, but I consider, right? And so he's saying, we're all gonna make mistakes. And he changes this into a major key so that his mistakes are minimized. And he's saying, what the heck? That was the price tag for becoming a champion. And he's setting you up for this. It's the most interesting thing ever, guys. Like, if you really understand good songwriting, you'll really get this. So anyway, it switches into this major key. Let's continue.
And bad mistakes, I've made a few.
So what?
I've had my share of sand kicks in my face, but I've come through. And I need to go.
So I get this. Yes, right? That's kind of how I get the, right? He said, yeah, I've had it, it was tough, but made it through because that's what champions do. Come on, here we go.
We are the champions, my friend.
Now, if you're like me, I can already see way back in the day, people used to actually light stuff and hold it like this, like candles, like in concert back in this day. Then it became lighters, and then people would have their lighters. Now it's cell phones. But so for the sake of you millennials out there, think of the cell phone. All of a sudden, when you get to this section, tell me if I'm right or wrong. Don't you just think of this with the cell phone?
We are the champions, my friend.
Right?
And we'll keep on fighting till the end. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions of the world.
Now, on that of the world, all of a sudden, he's bringing you in and forcing you to take a look at the one word that he says, of the world, right? He wants you to know it's for everybody. So he takes the music completely out and he sticks you with the one word. So you're left to go, oh, wow, I have to focus on this one lyric. And the lyric is very prescient because it's very, very, it's the definition of the song and what he's bringing everyone into. That's also genius songwriting. Let's continue. Minor key again.
I've taken my bows.
So here's the lament. Here's the, the ballad of Freddie Mercury, so to speak. So here's the lament,
My curtain calls. brought me fame and fortune and everything that goes with it. I thank you all.
So it's the reflection. So I'm reflecting back, I couldn't call. So you're kind of like dreaming back in the reflection of this, reminiscing on all this stuff, right? And then,
But it's been no bed of roses, no pleasure cruise. I consider it a challenge before the whole human race, and I ain't gonna lose. And I need to go.
emotionally, do you see what he just did to you and me? Pretty interesting.
We are the champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting till the end. We are the champions. We are the champions.
Now, on this part here,
No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions.
like, no losers, 'cause we are the champions. Can't touch me, I'm a minute, right? So this whole thing, and you may think I'm nuts, and that's okay, but let's not forget one thing. When you think I'm reading more into this than I should, this is the band and the man that wrote Bohemian Rhapsody. So today's music, and I'm not going to bag on today's music, but I'm going to bag on today's music. I'm not hearing that kind of orchestration. I'm not hearing that kind of, blood, sweat, and tears songwriting where every single solitary thing is so thought out. They're like, da da da, wah, 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 we are, all the different orchestration. Every minutia of every detail was thought out. So if that's true, and it is, I suspect that every single solitary thing was somebody had a playwright in their mind, and they created a whole movie, and they just painted that movie in a song for you and for me, so we could be champions too. Okay? Hopefully you guys enjoyed this as much as I did, and definitely hang around and check out my next video.